even as we talk about this, one of the, and when you look at the different headlines in the paper, and let me take you through some of them. For example, on the front page of the Daily Nation, big fish trapped. There's a picture of Mohamed Swazuri, the NLC chair. There's a picture of Dr. Belio Kipsang. And this is all in regards to the Ruaraka land probe. If you turn to page 4 of the same paper, the EACC took time to talk about Ruaraka yesterday. They're talking about Kenya Pipeline as well. And they are saying that Kenya Pipeline inflated the price of hydrant pit valves by 1,110%. And as all these revelations come to light, a section of politicians are saying that the fight or the war on corruption is skewed. It's in one direction. It's targeting only certain people while protecting others. What do you think?
I think one thing that the president talked to Parliament was that, and I think he rightfully said that when somebody is faced with corruption, a thief is a thief. You do not have a Luo thief because he's not stealing on behalf of Luos. You do not have a Kikuyu thief. He's not stealing on behalf of Kikuyus. You don't have a Kalenjin, a Masai, or whatever thief because he does not steal or she does not steal on behalf of his tribe. When you have a thief, deal with that thief. But what is happening now, as has always happened, a problem comes in and a solution is being sought, but then we quickly go into our cocoons and want to show that we are being targeted. Listen, when this sugar was being brought into the country, if it was brought by a Luo, how many Luos were put together to be told, I'm bringing in sugar and this sugar is laced with mercury, etc., etc. An individual actually takes that action. And so an individual must be dealt with. And one of the reasons why all the efforts that we've driven against corruption does not work is this tendency to go into a cocoon and to say we are being targeted. And that's what was coming out in Parliament yesterday. You know? In a nutshell. In a nutshell, that was what was coming out. We are being targeted. Yet you also have people who got licenses. That is not the issue. Anybody who got a license and brought in sugar that's laced with mercury or copper must be dealt with as an individual, regardless of which side of the political divide they are in, regardless of which tribe they come from. Because then otherwise we'll never move if tribes move in and try to cushion their own at the expense of Kenyans who are suffering. And let me tell you this, you might be safe because you are taking water with no sugar. But if you have a sister or a brother or a child who will go to visit somebody, they might find that sugar in that house. So no Kenyan is safe. No Kenyan is safe. Bottom line.
I want to talk about a different story. This one was done yesterday by our Enoch Sikolia. And he talked about National Assembly members adjourning yesterday to discuss the sugar crisis. But meanwhile, for today, the Agriculture Committee is planning to summon Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich over duty-free sugar. The MPs want explanations on how the government gave tax exemptions on sugar that was imported last year. I bet you that this sugar discussion is not going to end anytime soon. Let's listen to this Enoch Sikolia report, even as we try and understand the complexities around sugar. And the Standard has tried to talk a bit about this on the front page, and I'll be taking you there shortly. But first things first, here's that report.
With the heat over the crackdown on the contraband sugar rising steadily, companies adversely mentioned in the sugar importation saga are now placing the blame at the doorstep of the National Treasury. On Tuesday, 1,350 bags of suspected illegal sugar was impounded at Kanini Haraka warehouse in Nakuru, while 5,500 bags were netted in Meru.
Definitely, it's not the first. We have another one at the blanket where we were yesterday. And we are likely to have many more because we are taking our work seriously.
The crackdown and the revelation by the Ministry of Interior that the impounded sugar contained elements of mercury and copper have continued to send shivers down the spines of sugar-loving Kenyans.
And we want to make sure that the products that are sold to the public are safe.
But what is the story behind the alleged contraband sugar raids? West Kenya Sugar Company says, yes, it imported brown sugar in bulk during the period, but it was not the proprietor of the sugar seized by the government in Eastleigh, Nairobi, on the 5th of June. Recent raids by authorities at Pan Paper Warehouse and Nakuru Blanket go-downs have left footprints suggesting West Kenya Sugar Company is a likely target of authorities. The company under the Rai Sugar Group is alleged to have brought into the country 184,000 metric tons, flooding the market with cheap sugar. The genesis, as acknowledged by the company in its press release, was the move by CS Henry Rotich to give a tax exemption on sugar importation in violation of the East Africa Community regulations that calls for consultation with finance ministers of the region. Citizen TV has established that unscrupulous businessmen took the advantage to import a lot of cheap sugar and kept in stores to deny the government revenue even after the expiry of the duty-free period. Initially, the period was to run from the 1st of September to December 31st, 2017. But it was later revised with the deadline moved to the 13th of October 2017, but reports indicate businessmen continued to ship in duty-free cheap sugar from Brazil after the expiry of the waiver. It is alleged the Rai Sugar Group shipped in the commodity using 5 companies. West Sugar Company that brought in 34,600 tons. Amne Company shipped in 74,000. Sukari Industries located in Diwa had 34,000, while Menengai refineries shipped in 40,000 tons. Enoch Sikolia, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
All right, let's try and understand this sugar crisis a bit better. On the front page of the Standard, they've done some graphics just to try and put that into perspective, at least towards the bottom of the front page. So it's estimated that 376,100, and you can see those figures there at the very bottom, tons of sugar were produced last year, which fell below the last average, the average 617,000 produced annually in the past 5 years. So last year's production was much lower than what has been produced annually in the past 5 years. Now, the country's total annual sugar in stock last year is about 1.36 million, which was higher, that's tons, due to annual imports to cover acute shortage, while 250,000 tons is the annual deficit which the country has to fill through duty-free imports. And you can see a graphic there of the different locations where sugar has been impounded over the last couple of weeks, almost 2 to 3 weeks. Eldoret, Olkalau, Meru, Matu, Nairobi, Kisii, Webuye, and Eldoret, just to name a few in terms of the location. So really quite a lot of revelations there. And again, as I mentioned earlier, if I take you to page 6 of the Standard, okay, so there's a little article here about how toxic chemicals end up in food items. An expert spoke to the Standard and revealed to them that residue from toxic chemicals end up in food during processing and the post-harvest period. However, a lady from the University of Nairobi's Department of Food Science and Technology noted it is not the chemicals themselves that should scare people, but the state in which they are found. She said this because while some chemicals are generally toxic like mercury, others such as copper can be ingested in a form not injurious to one's health. So again, I think it's a time when Kenyans really need to find out a lot of information, because one can get quite scared by some of the headlines and some of the statements made by some of our leaders. I mean, last week, Interior Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i claimed some of the sugar consumed by Kenyans was illegal and hence poisonous. And analysis of more than 1,300 bags of sugar by the government chemist in a report yet to be made public showed that the consignment was not cleared by KEBS and that it contained mercury, copper, mold, and yeast. And obviously, this has led a lot of Kenyans to get really worried about the kind of sugar that they have been ingesting, whether in their tea or in any of the products that they may be taking at this time. Well, joining us in studio to also help shed light on the sugar wars, crisis, fireworks, whichever way you want to look at it, Honorable Alice Wahome, Member of Parliament for Kandara. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Ahiga.
Have you had your morning cup of tea?
No, it's
sugar
coming.
Or sugar free?
With sugar. Without sugar.
Without sugar.
Without sugar.
I don't know if you were in the National Assembly yesterday when we saw all manner of fireworks.
Yes.
What is your take, Mheshimiwa?
Okay. May I say that when I entered the National Assembly, that was after 5:30. I think the leader of majority was making his speech or debate on the subject. Normally he gives the cue to the government team, but you know, a quick assessment of the debate and the persons that were debating yesterday
gave me an indication that there is more than meet the eye, and that I did not want myself to participate in a debate that was not clear. I think personally I would like a major statement from the Ministry of Interior. I would like the KEBS to actually come out and give us indication, because there are too many issues that need to be given a thorough and genuine and honest, candid debate. So I think yesterday for me was basically a debate that left Kenyans with more questions than answers. And Lily, when we have started the fight against corruption, the president has taken up the war against corruption. We are expected as legislators to assist and take this debate and fight a level higher that will give Kenyans confidence and the necessary support that the political goodwill needs to come in on board. And so therefore, I don't know what Kenyans themselves made out of the debate. The debates in Parliament must provide answers.
They saw different sides of the political class almost cannibalizing each other.
In fact, there were teams within the Jubilee that were not speaking the same tune or singing the same tune. There were also, and I think the NASA teams were basically giving a debate that I think they were just debating. They were not on any side. I think, in my view, they were looking for answers
themselves.
Yes, and they were not supporting. You know, there are some cartels that there are different cartels. This sugar industry issue is not one single cartel. There are several, and I think that I wouldn't.
Was it cartels fighting each other yesterday in the National Assembly?
Well, yeah, that was also possible. There were some elements of those cartels. And
okay.
Wahiga, I think the NASA team was clearly on the side of the people of Kenya. You know, it is true that what played out yesterday was there is a deeper problem, a deeper issue that was brought out on the floor yesterday. But for the NASA team, it didn't matter what that issue was, cartel or no cartel. The lives of the people of Kenya is supreme. That was the bottom line.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. You can fight your wars, you can do all the corrupt deals, but now when it comes to those corrupt deals affecting the lives of Kenyans or threatening the lives of Kenyans, we must put a stop to it.
Okay.
For us, that was the main thing, that we are not going to put the lives of Kenyans at stake just because we want to do business.
Well, Honorable Wandai yesterday says that the cartels that are being talked about, some of them are run by MPs here. Shouldn't he have gone ahead and named them? At least on the Honorable Duale side, we had some names.
I don't know if it's, and my sister would actually be able to advise me on this. I don't know if it's possible for him standing there to actually say, Alice Wahome, Rosa Buyu, you are part of the cartel. I don't know. I don't know if that would be proper for him to do. But he did say that some of the cartels or part of the cartels are actually sitting and looking at him. So I wondered, looking at him from which way, the opposite side or next to him, you know, behind him. So, but he didn't mention their names.
He did not mention.
No, you see, that's where the NASA team it might fail. You see, the case of handshake could also compromise them. I think we expect, handshake or no handshake, the opposition to play its
role.
And if they have names, it's actually the best team to provide this information and put it on the desk of the government on the floor of the House. I think Wadai should go further and bring the list. And the opposition must put the government to check. You see, I think yesterday the leader of majority was talking as the member of parliament for Garissa, because also he has...
When do you remove the quote?
Let me speak, because he also clarified. He has a role himself. But I think we would expect that as we move forward in this debate, the government, through that same position, the leader of majority, will now tell Kenyans, this sugar is laced, these are the extent, we have destroyed it. Because really, we cannot feed Kenyans with, you know, it is the saddest moment of this country. We are talking about, and we can't start, and I think the newspapers, the media is speculating. They need to get deeper investigations. This requires investigative journalism, so that we want to hear Kenya Bureau of Standards, this is their report. And even before we reach there, how did this sugar come into the market if it is not qualified, if it is not allowed to be on the shelves? Which area did it pass through? This is not local sugar.
Some is from Brazil, I don't know.
Well, I think you cannot even tell. You know, there is a lot of musical chairs on this in this debate, and we must reveal the merchants that are killing Kenyans. We must reveal, and we must prosecute. We must destroy. You know, now what I am seeing here is that we are now trying to say the mercury, the content, the copper. You know, the Minister for Interior clearly has a big war, and he needs to be supported. We can't start demonizing, because that's now another major office in terms of internal security. I think we want more answers. He also said that there were calls and calls following him, like to intimidate him. I think by now, if we have the names, maybe the calls will stop.
Maybe the calls
and if the Minister of Interior can be intimidated, now who is Alice and Rosa? Are you seeing here?
Yes.
So this is not a very small issue.
My issue yesterday, what I also felt was there was also an attempt to move away from the real substance, the real issue, because the real issue was not people or traders who had got licenses to import duty-free sugar. That was not the point. The point was, we are talking about this particular sugar or this particular consignment that is laced with mercury or copper or whatever. So we were trying, there was also an attempt to have people move so that we begin to discuss how many people got and who were the people who got licenses to import duty-free sugar. That was not the point. The point is, this sugar that has come in, who brought it? And why did the person bring sugar laced with mercury or laced with copper?
Some chemicals,
you know,
yeah.
So I thought that the debate was now moving away from the real issue, so that we'd have more names tabled, you know, names tabled of people who had licenses to bring sugar. It is okay to have a license in a rightful manner to bring in duty-free sugar if the government gives that license. But the government does not license you to bring in sugar that's laced with mercury. So we sort of were deviating from the real point. The point is, the sugar is here, it is laced with mercury, it's detrimental to Kenyans. Who is it who brought this sugar? That is the first issue we are dealing with now. Then we can deal with corruption.
You sound quite resolute in the fact that it's laced with this substance, and yet KEBS themselves, or at least from what we had yesterday in an interview here, said that they haven't tested those products.
You know, for me, if somebody told me today, just on suspicion, that there was something like that, even in my own house, I'd throw away that sugar, even if I bought it for 20,000 shillings, I'd throw it away. The first thing I'd do, just on suspicion. And many countries do that. As soon as you hear that a product, anybody who wants to have to uphold its integrity, every time you hear that you have a product and the suspicion that that product is harmful to anybody, you withdraw that product in the market as you do your testing. But you cannot have the product, have people take it, and then after 2 months say, yes, indeed, that product was laced with mercury. What happens to the people who've taken that product in 2 months?
Yeah, I think the merchants have been moving day and night to have their sugar cleared in terms of the mercury content or the chemical content. Because if you look at the way the debate came initially, now we are moving from there. Oh, this sugar, after all, was not bad. But was this sugar actually allowed to come to the country? Into the country. You see, initially it wasn't. Now it's like they have licenses, and that we are now mixing good sugar and bad sugar, and illegal merchants and legal merchants, and like some have licenses. That's the debate that was going on in Parliament. But even before we even reach that, and I know you want to actually move us properly. The question is, by the time we get all these licenses, just like the maize scandal, and we were here a week ago, I think, discussing how farmers still have their maize in the stores and their maize has not been been sold to NCPD,
Yes,
and then
it's rotting
and it's rotting. They are going to go at a loss, and people have brought maize outside the country. So sugar industry is being killed by these same cartels, so that they can actually import and sell sugar to Kenyans. So what happens to the farmer in her place and in the Mohoroni areas, you know?
Let me even go further on what she's talking about, maize. The farmer has the maize in their storage. They cannot sell to the cereal board. For some reason, traders were allowed to bring in maize, and cereal board bought that maize at 3,400 shillings a bag, when the farmers have been crying for an increase in the purchase of their maize. And they've always been told, no, if we are buying maize from you, the highest we can go is 2,800. But then people bring in this maize duty free, and cereal board buys it at 3,400. Really, really, where is the sense in that?
So who are Kenyans to look to for help? Parliament, can you save us?
God.
Hapo ndio tumefika.
Hapo ndio tumefika kweli.
Switch the language for 1 minute. Look
up to God, because you're a farmer. You've done everything. You've put in your sweat. This is where your hope lies. This is where the livelihood of your family lies. You've done all you can, and God has been gracious to you. Probably you've had the rains and you've harvested maize. And you cannot sell maize to the cereal board, because people have brought in that maize, and cereal board has bought it at 3,400. Now you're being twisted. You must sell your maize at below price, below the cost, at even 2,000, because now you have to start counting your losses. It's better you sold it at a loss, but got something out of it, as opposed to just.
But as parliamentarians, if you tell us, oh, now God, and we put you in office to champion our
because Parliament does not execute.
Let me hear from Weshimiwa.
I think parliamentarians are failing. We are failing our duty in this particular case, not in just this case, in many cases. And you see, the minute we start also trading in some of these commodities, because I think there are many members of Parliament who are in this trade, in this business, and of course there are also those commercial brokers now who have taken hold of some of the members of Parliament. But I can tell you, Parliament still, in its own unique way, is able and can provide answers, because I can tell you it's a very small number who may be mixed up with this thing. And I think as we go further, I think I will still get put my hope on ourselves as legislators. We still must provide the answers, because if we don't, then we are done.
Fair enough. I want to switch gears a little bit.